Greetings, guys. The Comics Kid 2099 here, and I want to talk to you about a book that I got for my birthday. Deadshot, Beginnings. This is written by a few different people. It has credited on the front John Ostrander, Kim Yale, and Luke McDonald, because those three worked on the 4-issue Deadshot miniseries collected at the beginning of this book. But this book is longer than 4 issues. It's actually 7 issues long. It has that 4-issue miniseries, and then it also has some earlier appearances of Deadshot from, I think, the 70s and early 80s. Detective Comics 474, 518, and Batman 369. And this is a very unusual book. I will go ahead and say, if you like Deadshot, you probably already have this book, but let's say you've been watching Arrow, and you really like Deadshot in that TV series, and then you saw the trailer for the Suicide Squad movie. By the way, I haven't seen that trailer, don't spoil me. And you saw that trailer, and you really like Deadshot in the trailer, and you want to know more about him, but you haven't actually sought him out yet, this would be a pretty good book to read. It gives you a good exploration of the character of Deadshot. The 4-issue miniseries comes first, which is actually, in all of the comics collected here, the 4-issue miniseries actually comes last, because it came out in, like, the very early 90s. It was after the Suicide Squad was already established, and that 4-issue miniseries came out. And, basically, it establishes that Floyd Lawton, Deadshot, that he has a death wish. And not only does it establish that, but it also kind of goes into his backstory a little bit. And I will go ahead and say it's a little inconsistent with the Batman comics that are collected here, but that's kind of okay because those Batman comics happened before Crisis on Infinite Earths, whereas this miniseries happens afterwards, and Crisis on Infinite Earths cleaned the slate, and they said, you know what, everything that came before doesn't count, and so anything came after Crisis on Infinite Earths, you could say, I'm going to do whatever I want with this character. So it's okay that the miniseries is a little inconsistent with these other issues of Batman, but let's say you've just been watching Arrow in the Suicide Squad trailer and you've never read Crisis on Infinite Earths and you don't know what it is, you might be a little confused why the Deadshot miniseries at the beginning of this book is contradicting the Batman issues collected at the end. And that's because those issues came out in a very different time period, and DC Comics was saying, you know, we're just going to wipe the slate clean and kind of start over. And so in the later issues collected here, the Batman comics where Deadshot was appearing, basically they say that Deadshot was just a wealthy socialite who kind of got bored with life, and so he pretended to be a hero, and he was actually secretly being a villain. And that was his origin story, and I should go ahead and mention, this does not collect Deadshot's first appearance. His first appearance was like in the 1940s, and he dressed up in a suit or a tuxedo or something, and a top hat and a monocle, and or not a monocle, he had like a domino mask, and that looked nothing like his costume that he wears now. You know, that's his costume that he has now. The red suit with the weird little eyepiece thing, I guess it's a sight. That's his very iconic costume that he wears now. And I will say, I'm pretty sure the reason Deadshot is so popular is because Marshall Rogers redesigned his costume to look like this. And if you've ever heard of Steve Englehart's run on, I believe, Detective Comics is the series he wrote. It was either Batman or Detective. But Steve Englehart had a run on Detective Comics, and it's a pretty decent run. And one of the artists who worked with him on that was Marshall Rogers. And one of the issues from their run is collected here, and it's the reintroduction of Deadshot. And that, in my opinion, is what kind of kicked off Deadshot's popularity over the years. I don't think that John Ostrander would have chosen Deadshot to be part of the Suicide Squad if these guys hadn't reinvented the character in their run in the 70s, and then other writers kind of picked him up and ran with him throughout the 80s up until Legends happened, which introduced the idea of the Suicide Squad. But basically, the first 4 issues here, the 4-issue miniseries, it's a pretty good story. It's a very dark story. And you might be saying, well, it's about an assassin. It's not even about an anti-hero. It's about a straight-up villain who is the hero of his own story for 4 issues. And not even the hero. He's the protagonist of his own story for 4 issues. So yeah, it's going to be dark. And I expected it. I didn't expect rainbows and Skittles in this 4-issue miniseries. But it was a lot darker than I expected. And I'm not going to spoil what I mean by that, but there's something that happens here that I really did not expect to happen. And even after we're told it happens, I keep turning pages like, okay, but this didn't really happen, right? It did. It's really dark, and it kind of goes in a direction I wasn't expecting it to go that far. The only thing I did not like about this 4-issue miniseries is Deadshot's therapist, and I can't even remember her name, but she keeps showing up in this miniseries, and she's trying to help cure Floyd Lawton. And okay, that's what a therapist should be doing. Naturally, I think that she is going way too far. She was even taken off of the Floyd Lawton case because her superior thinks that she's too close to it. She even admits that she's too close to it. So she's going out of her way, going to Floyd's hometown, trying to figure out why he is so messed up in the head, and she's trying to help him. And this character just never clicked with me. I never really liked her. I felt like she was just getting in the way of the Deadshot stuff that I wanted to see. And I understand why she's there, because she's kind of a point of entry character for us. We don't know anything about Deadshot's background, and neither does she. And so she's there to investigate all of this stuff and find out about it as we find out about it. But I still never liked her as a character. I understand her as a plot device. I did not like her as a character. I didn't think that she really added anything beyond introducing all of this exposition to us as a plot device. So 4-issue miniseries. Really good stuff, really enjoyable, good character study for Deadshot. I'm not really sure if the reasons that he has his death wish that's explained in this miniseries, I'm not sure if that held up over the years or if other writers kind of ignored it and went in a different direction. I thought it was an okay explanation. I really like the twist at the end. I know a lot of people are like, oh, the twist, I don't like it. M. Night Shyamalan, he always does a twist. I think this does a twist at the end, and I think it works. It comes out of nowhere, but I think that it works well in this case. And then you have the other 3 Batman issues that are here. Not much to say about those because they happen over a scattered period of time. Like you have Detective 474 and 518. That's like 4 years later or something like that. And one of these issues, actually 2 of them, you have boss Rupert Thorne, who you may know from Batman the Animated Series. He is kind of, sort of unofficially ruling Gotham City, and then he keeps seeing Hugo Strange's ghost. And I've read the Steve Englehart run. I don't remember what was going on with Rupert Thorne seeing Hugo Strange's ghost. Apparently Thorne tried to have Hugo Strange killed. I seem to recall, spoiler, Hugo Strange wasn't really dead. He had just faked his death, and then he was trying to get back at Thorne. I don't know how that fits into all of this. So if you're reading this and you're like, I have no idea what's going on here, that's because it's skipping around a lot, and you're kind of jumping in the middle of a story that has Deadshot, and then you're leaving the story when Deadshot leaves the story. And that little subplot of Rupert Thorne seeing Hugo Strange's ghost, it actually keeps going after Englehart's run ends, because I thought that was just something from Englehart's run, but it's also briefly happens again in 518, which is after Englehart's run, and I don't remember who wrote 518. I guess I could look it up, but I don't think I'm going to be able to find that really quickly. So basically, this is a good, let's see here. It was probably Jerry Conway or Paul Leavitz or Doug Monk. It was one of those guys. It's not Ostrander. But anyway, basically this book is really good. If you want to know more about Deadshot, if you like him in what you've seen and you want to see more of him, this is a really good book to check out. I don't know how consistent it is with later Deadshot stories. I don't know how consistent it is with Deadshot's characterization now, or how it was handled from the 90s all the way up to now. I don't know, because I haven't read a lot of Deadshot stuff. I haven't read a lot of Suicide Squad, but I was interested in checking out this character's origins, and I really enjoyed it. So for someone who knows a little bit about Deadshot, but not a whole lot, I thought this was a really good book to kind of explore a little bit more about the character. So I recommend that you read Deadshot Beginnings if you are interested in learning more about Deadshot. And if you don't know anything about him, but you might want to read some kind of side stories for Batman in the 80s and 90s, this is also a good thing for you to read, because Batman is in the last half of this book, and he's kind of sort of mentioned in the first half, but he's not really there at all. So that is why I would recommend this book. I hope that you guys liked this video. If you did, be sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe, and I will be back later in the week with some other videos. I will see you guys in the future. Have a great rest of the day. Catch you then.